Okay, looks like we're live here, guys. What's up, men? How are y'all doing today? Welcome to Wisdom and Grit Live. My goal with this show is to introduce you to the men who build the world and create lives of impact so that we can celebrate them and work together to fulfill the call of masculinity in our homes, our communities, and the world. Today's guest is a man among men. In the last 5 years, he's established one of the most influential groups and podcasts on the planet, exploring what it means to be a man and challenging them in their mission to become a man of impact. The group, just under 54,000 men, and the podcast, which has been heard by millions, has featured sit-down interviews with titans like Jocko Willink, David Goggins, Leif Babin, and Tom Bilyeu. I may have butchered a couple of those names, not sure, but
I think you got them right, man. Those are good.
Awesome, man. Thanks. The only thing more impressive than what he's built inside of his movement is what he's grown on his face, a beard that would make a Viking feel like a child. Please welcome the founder of Order of Man, my friend Ryan Michler. Ryan, thanks for being here, bro.
What's up, man? Glad to be here. I was telling you before we got started, I do a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of great podcasts out there, but this is one I was really, really looking forward to. So I'm honored to be here, man.
That means a lot. So, dude, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, okay, dude, you do not start a movement like what you've built without having some underlying purpose behind it. I mean, it's just, I believe it would be impossible to just do this based on monetary reward alone. So run us through kind of what triggered I guess your path in life, and then what triggered you to kind of jump into something like this.
Yeah, that you bring up a really good point, because if it was just about making money, I mean, you can make money anyway. You know, like there isn't really a significant way just to make a bunch of money. Some people are more successful at it than others, and it's important. I don't want to discount the fact that we got to make money and put food on the table and create experiences for ourselves and our loved ones. But I think there's an opportunity in today's culture to create a movement. That's a good word for it. A movement around something that you enjoy, something that calls to you, something that speaks to you. And fortunately, I've been able to do that over the past 4 years. You said 5 years, but it's only been 4 years, actually.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I saw your original video was 4 years ago. And so,
which is the reason I say that is not because it matters whether it's 4 or 5 years, but it's just it's crazy what you can do when there is something you're excited about, something that you're passionate about, and then put that out into the world in a meaningful way, in a way that's not fake, that you're not trying to game the system necessarily, but that you're trying to share some personal experiences. And to answer your question specifically, I've had a lot of experiences in my life that I have felt, quite honestly, inadequate as a man. From the near divorce, the separation that I went through with my wife, to being a new time father and just feeling like I was completely in over my head and drowning, to not really growing up without a permanent father figure in my life. I think the biggest problem that came from that is a lack of confidence in my early youth. Right. And trying to understand how do men interact with each other? How do they show up? I had some good coaches in my life that showed up in big ways that helped teach me some of that stuff. I spent some time in the military and learned a lot of that. But yeah, man, I floundered. I struggled for a long time. And in many ways, I still do. So my goal is to help men step up, to lead their families, lead their businesses, their communities, lead in every facet of their life in a way that's going to be relevant, meaningful, credible, fulfilling, rewarding, profitable, fill in the blank. I just want men to be successful, and I want their families and communities to be successful in turn.
You know, a lot of influencers talk about transparency and just kind of putting yourself out there, man. I think that's one of the things about you that I believe you've nailed. Because the thing is, with men, a lot of times we don't necessarily like to just lay it all out on the table. Yeah. Right? I mean, there's a lot of ego kind of driving a lot of what we do a lot of times. So, of course, first of all, thanks for doing that, man. I mean, that's a big deal. I know you're making an impact in a lot of men, and I've followed a lot of your stuff too. And that's good stuff.
I think it's a good point. I think it's certainly worth talking about. I would maybe shy away from the idea of like nailing it. And I know what you're saying. Right. But the reason I shy away from that is because I don't want it to ever come across as like I'm gaming it. Right. And I think that's what marketers have a tendency to do. They're like, oh, let's be authentic. Let's be genuine. And as much as that's true, I think there's validity to that. Yeah. When we start over analyzing it and over scrutinizing it, and then we're using it simply as a tactic to be able to create a wider audience or make more money from our movement, then I think we run the risk of it not really being authentic or vulnerable or whatever word people want to use. It's a tactic wrapped around the cloak of authenticity.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not, I don't even like saying I just want to be authentic with people. I just want to share myself with people.
Yeah.
Like I want to share the goods, the bads, the uglies, the things I do really, really well. And there's a handful of those things. And the things that I do really, really poorly. And there's significantly more of those things, because I feel like if I can share those things, as uncomfortable and awkward as those things are to share,
Yeah.
that's where the real power comes, is because I can show guys that somebody maybe they admire or they respect or they look up to isn't Superman.
Right.
That he's got his own shit and his own baggage, his own stuff that he's dealing with and trying to figure out. That's more relatable. And not only is it more relatable, because that in it itself is not good enough.
Right.
It's that people begin to see themselves in somebody else. Oh, like, oh, Ryan used to be a shit dad. Well, I feel like I am. And now look what he's accomplished with his kids.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do? That gives an individual hope that they can improve their lives and do things they want to do in their lives. So it's not like about gaming it. It's not about being authentic or vulnerable or genuine. It's just about sharing what needs to be shared in order to foster hope in other individuals who I want to lead, so that they go out and they do something meaningful in their lives, like salvage the relationship with their wife or connect with their kids unlike they've ever been able to connect with before, or start the business that they've been afraid of starting forever, or go into the gym for the first time in a decade. And all of that is fostered through hope. And I think hope comes through being real with people.
That's good, man. I think you've got a really keen understanding of who your audience is and kind of what your mission is inside of that. I guess that's more what I was tapping into. So that's really cool, man.
Well, and the reason, Corey, the reason I know that so well is because my audience is me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Same thing, man. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Right. It's not some like weird demographic that I've spent a bunch of time considering who makes the most money or who I can profit the most from. No, It's dudes like you and me who are in the trenches, who get in arguments with their wife, who get impatient with their kids, who aren't making as much money as they would like, or want to start a business, but they're afraid, or have a few pounds around the midsection. Dude, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. So I'm not here to be a guru or to like lead necessarily anybody, but I'm just here to say, look, I want to improve. I want to be a better man. Oh, you want to be a better man too? Cool. Let's do this together.
Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah, 100%. So like inside of that, I mean, we tend to hear a lot of kind of friction, and I don't jump on this probably as much as I should, mainly because I don't necessarily want the whole topic of wisdom and grit to be around this concept, but the idea of toxic masculinity that we hear a lot, and just this attack on masculinity, I think it's easy to kind of start getting into these bitch circles, where you sit around and all that's all you're talking about, and so I'd rather focus on calling men up and just being like, look, if you become powerful here, then all of these people are like chihuahuas. They're not going to be able to dance on it. But inside of that, like, there's a lot of issues, kind of like the fatherlessness in the homes that you mentioned earlier. And even with guys that are in the home and completely disengaged and they're not present or whatever it is, or like I'm a Christian, right? And I know you're are Christian or something. I don't know exactly, but either way inside of that, we have what's called discipleship, right? And making sure that the next generation is called up and that they're equipped to handle what the crap's going on. And you're nailing it. I say nail it again, but you're doing a good job there, because I saw your post about bringing your son into your organization. But then when all the crap was going down with the Boy Scouts and you started up that legacy movement, I just thought that was really cool how you just saw that need and you took action.
I just solved my own problems, man. That's it. Look, I've got problems. My two oldest boys, they're in the scouting program. I see that the scouts have done some things that, I think the scouts like heart is in the right place. I think they're trying to do the right thing. I also think they're driven by financial motivation, which is why they're opening it up, because they're really struggling. I think they're taking the wrong route, but I'm personally affected by that. I'm impacted by that. So I could get into that bitch circle like you're talking about, right? And complain and say, oh, this and that, and everything else is wrong. it's everybody else's fault. Or I can just say, that's a problem. Let me fix it.
That's it.
And it's for me. And if I can include other guys, like I wanted to create a rite of passage for my boys. Cool. Let's include 20 other dads to do it with me. That's all it is, man.
That's cool. No, that's the right approach, I believe. Like, so inside of this whole aspect of like fathers and men not kind of stepping up and coming to the plate, what do you think are the unforeseen consequences of this and the impact that that's going to have? I mean, we're starting to see the grumblings of it. I don't think we're anywhere near the potential downfall that we can see, or we will see, if men don't freaking step up and that we don't follow what we're called to do, which is build those men. What do you think are kind of the consequences there?
Yeah, I don't even think you said unforeseen, but I don't even think it's that. I don't think that we're oblivious to the consequences of the things that we're dealing with. I think it's very I think it's very real. I think it's measurable. It's quantifiable. We know what it is. There's some great work. Two resources I'll give to you and the guys that are listening right now is one is Dr. Leonard Sachs. He's written a bunch of books, probably 6 or so books, maybe even more, but 2 in particular is one is Why Gender Matters. And the other one is Boys Adrift. So Dr. Leonard Sachs, Why Gender Matters and Boys Adrift. The other resource I'll give you is Dr. Warren Farrell, who used to be a self-proclaimed feminist, but realized a lot of the problems that he was trying to solve and the solutions they came up with actually created more unattended problems than initially thought. He wrote a book called, I just lost my train of thought on the book title. I don't know.
Well, if somebody listening can go in there and look up.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't even see it on my bookshelf, but maybe it's the War on Boys. I can't remember. That's crazy. I can't think about that right now because I've had him on as a guest. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But his name's Dr. Farrell, Dr. Warren Farrell. So check it out. But in their research, what they're seeing is that if you look at the metric for boys, they're falling behind on just about every metric from drug abuse to depression and suicide rates to academic enrollment to even income to violence to running away from home to drug use. I mean, look, just pick a metric. And what we see is that boys are falling behind. And what I think a lot of people generally believe is that it's somehow some sort of like weird toxic masculinity problem.
Right.
And yet, if that were the case, why haven't we seen these issues in men like we're seeing now for thousands and thousands of years? Why are we just beginning to see these problems? And the reason that we're just beginning to see the problems is not because of some weird notion of toxic masculinity. It's because we don't have men raising their voice.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The men, what do? They leave the home, right? This isn't a perfect an ideal situation, or not ideal. I should say in the better situation. What do? You've got a dad who actually is in the home, except for when he leaves for work before the kids even get up. He gets home with maybe just enough time to pat them on their heads and give them a kiss and say goodnight. Mom's left to raise the kids, or even worse, they're sent off into daycare, primarily women. Then what do? We put them into the school system and bless school teachers' hearts, but most of them are women. And so they're being indoctrinated by women into how to behave. So it's no surprise that they're going to be taught to behave in feminine ways to address problems and look at society and figure out how to interact with other people as women, because that's who they're learning from. That's the better of the two situations. The other situation is that dad's not even around. Like dad knocked up mom. They're not married. He doesn't even know who the dad or the dad even is. And little Johnny and little Timmy, you're wondering like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Like I don't know
all the issues that come with the abandonment inside of that. Not to mention the mom's probably talking down on the father figure a lot. So
which maybe is deserved, but possibly. And then the other side is that dad's not in the home, so they don't know how to throw a baseball. They don't know how to roughhouse. They don't know how to harness their violence and their anger and their aggression that naturally, because of testosterone and other hormones coursing through our bodies, they don't know how to handle that stuff constructively or to produce effective outcomes. And then they get into school and they can't sit still because they're little boys and they want to go squash bugs and burn ants, but they got to sit in here and listen to a lecture about how wrong boys are and how men perpetuated a lot of the problems in society by women who are upset and bitter because they're in the same situations as their mom is. And then instead of actually addressing the problem, we pump them full of medication to sedate them because they're not being quote unquote good little boys.
Yeah.
And so we have these men, and look, we're not even seeing the tip of the spear when it comes to the problem, but we have these men who are sedated physically, mentally, emotionally, and they've got all these emotions and thoughts and ideas and quite literally the physiology of the way their bodies work, and they can't react properly to it. And of course they're pissed off.
Yeah.
And they're outraged and they're angry. And they don't know how to harness any of that stuff because there wasn't ever a father figure to say, hey, you're angry right now, and it's okay. Maybe the right emotion is to be mad or is to be angry. Let me show you how to harness it so that you can be productive in your own life and the lives of those who you will eventually go on to lead. They don't get that stuff, man. It's sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about you is like you've got like tribe builder course and all that where you're teaching men how to build movements. And one of the things I've found fascinating is that even inside of what you've built, you're willing to teach other men how to build that same thing. And I love your perspective on that. I tend to lead by that same example of there's like the mission is to build men and to fix the issue that we're facing inside of that. Right. So anything that we can do to make that easier for other guys to rise up inside of so that we can get this problem taken care of, or at least have a fighting chance at fixing, you know, the issues that are facing what we've got going on, then we need to do it. Right.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. I mean, if we look, that's our job as men, is to solve problems.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look, think about it this way. The world is filled with people who can recognize problems. That's what we do as human beings. And that's why there are so many bitch circles like you talk about, which I like that term a lot, is because everybody sees the problem, right? If you don't see the problem, you got to be oblivious or you're not human. That's in our nature. But what I think we're scarce on is those who are willing to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to talk about it. It's easier to say, oh, somebody else will do it. It's not my responsibility. Than it is to actually say, oh, okay, well, here's a problem with men. Here's a problem I recognize with boys. What can I do to solve the problem? Well, I can start having the conversations on a podcast. I can do an event where I bring fathers and sons together to test themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and I can run mastermind groups and I can teach other people how to build I can do all of that stuff. So why wouldn't I do those things?
Yeah.
I get it. It's scary or there's some level of risk associated with it. But I think the greater risk is knowing that you've got ideas and knowing that you've got a solution to the world's problems and then sitting on your ass, not doing anything about it because you're afraid or it's going to be a little risky or it's going to take some time or it's going to take some effort. The greater risk is that you live a life of inadequacy and mediocrity over the risk of actually going to do something and it not necessarily working out the way you thought it would. It won't. It won't work out the way you thought it would, but that's okay. You're going to grow and develop and figure out new ways of doing things and evolve and just be a better human being in general. By the way, Corey, I wanted to let you know, I just did a quick Google search. The Boy Crisis is the book that Warren Farrell wrote.
Okay.
That was going to drive me nuts if I didn't figure it out. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but it's called The Boy Crisis by Dr. Warren Farrell.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing some good research into that, the back end. I mean, it's important to understand what we're facing so that we can know how to kind of tackle all of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could take anecdotal evidence, and I think there's value in that for sure. There's a place for it. But unless you're actually looking at the data and the numbers and the research and objectively trying to figure out what it is that's going on, I think you're shorting yourself.
Yeah.
So that's one area I've actually really had to expand on, because one thing I am good at is taking action without a whole lot of like poking and prodding and even evidence, really. It's like I recognize it anecdotally that there's a problem. So I'm just going to go rush in and save what I feel like needs to be saved. And sometimes that's come back to bite me. And I feel like, you know, I really want to be at the forefront of this movement. I really want to be leading the conversation about what it means to be a man and how we usher young men into that masculinity. And in order to do that, not only am I going to need to look at it anecdotally, but I'm going to need to look at it objectively with scientific backed research and data that actually proves that what I believe, what I've merely been thinking or feeling, is actually what's going on. I don't want to be ignorant to the way I feel or giving that feeling more weight than it actually deserves. I need to back that stuff up.
Yeah. Smart, man. I mean, that's kind of the essence of maturity. I think in order to build some kind of a movement like what you've built, you obviously have to have that fire starter, like just go get it, make it happen. I mean, that's where I'm at and have been inside of Wisdom and Grit right now. And I've done a lot of groundwork over the last decade, and I've worked with men and done a lot of stuff that, I've worked with a lot of high level men on different things and then other guys in between. But now I'm at that point now where you're trying to launch a brand. It's a little bit of a different animal. Along the way, it's funny because as we talk about masculinity and this whole battle for it, and you've got people out there that are basically, because men aren't up fighting for what it is and teaching the younger generation what it is, you've got people that have no idea what it actually means to be a man, dictating the narrative for what it means to be a man.
Or women telling us how to be men.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, lesbians or guys who really have never experienced what it means to actually be a man. And so it really is interesting because it seems to be this elusive explanation about, like, there is no solid definition on what does it mean to be a man. Right.
Yeah.
And I think you and I can throw stuff out there, but at the end of the day, it's like, ultimately it's going to become what fits for our tribe as we're building it out and trying to maintain that. I believe that's where the battle is for the next decade, is really like sticking that flag in the ground and being like, this is what it means to be a man. And that's the war.
I don't think there's any confusion. Well, I don't think there should be any confusion about that. I mean, if you look at historically, the way that most, and when I say most, I'm talking about the overwhelming majority of societies throughout all of time and history, and even different cultures that haven't even been in contact or exposed to one another, look at masculinity the same way. And then we look at our biology and our physiology and how we're made up and how we operate. It's not confusing what it means to be a man. It's been watered down.
It's confusing, I think. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's not in black and white. Nobody's defined it, and this is it, like, period. That it's like the rule. Like, so we have that instinct around what it is, and that's kind of what you're talking to. And I believe we're a lot on the same page, if not all the way on the same page in that realm. It's just a matter of, like, it's definitively for people who are going to argue with you just coming in, and it's not like it's like in black and white necessarily to say, hey, this is exactly what it looks like to be a man.
I think anybody who argues about, well, let's just talk about what it means to be a man, and then we'll address this other side. A man is a protector, a provider, and a presider.
Right. Best tagline ever, buddy.
That's what he is.
Solid. Yeah, no, it's awesome.
He protects himself. He protects his tribe, his neighborhood, his community, his friends, his family members, and those who are incapable for whatever reason of protecting themselves.
Yeah.
He provides physically, mentally, emotionally, the resources that are needed to sustain life. He is a producer. At times he'll consume as well, but overwhelmingly he is a producer. He's a producer of resources. And then he leads. He leads effectively. He leads with clarity and vision and decisiveness and grit and determination and resolve.
Yeah.
Now, can women do these things? Yes. Just like men can exhibit feminine characteristics. Yeah. But we are biologically hardwired to be protectors, providers, and presiders. Anybody who disagrees with that is ignorant.
Yeah.
That's it. You can debate with me all day long, but you're not right. Like, there's certain things that aren't really opinion. Now, look, I'll say this. The way that we are protectors, for example, let's just isolate that for a minute, might vary from culture to culture or person to person. It would be like saying, well, the best form of martial arts is jujitsu. And then somebody else saying to me, well, no, the best the best method of martial arts is karate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we can debate that, but we can both agree that we should be able to protect ourselves. Well, yes, we agree on that. Good. That's the foundation for the discussion. Now let's talk about how we make that work. There's some people out there that don't have the foundational or principal knowledge, and so you can't debate with these people.
Right.
I can debate with somebody who wants to talk about what is the best form of martial arts in order to be that type of protector, because we both know we're to be protectors.
Yeah.
Now it's just a matter of, okay, how do we best fulfill this role? But somebody who's not willing to deal in reality and look at the fact that men throughout, again, all the time in history are just look at men.
Yeah.
We're bigger and stronger than women.
Yeah.
And inevitably somebody will say, well, I know some women who would kick my ass. It's like, okay, well, you're taking one, and I know that woman too, but you're taking one extreme. You're cherry picking. You're taking one extreme and comparing it to another extreme.
Yeah.
And you're taking that one, and I'm not even going to say exception, but you're taking that extreme and then applying it broadly. It's not how this works.
Yeah.
If you look at men, generally, we're bigger, stronger, faster than women. Well, why could that be? Why is it that way? Well, because we're designed that way to protect. And I don't care if it's a spiritual creation concept or if it's an evolution concept. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you look at it and it's like, men are bigger, men are stronger, men are faster. Oh, they must be the protectors. They must be the hunters. It's not hard to understand.
That's solid, man.
It doesn't fit a lot of people. What's that?
I said, you got the fire today. I'm loving it, man.
Well, it's just frustrating because I think there's I'm not disagreeing with you. I think there is a lot of confusion about it, but it's confusion because people are trying to make up this really strange narrative for whatever reason, because I don't know, maybe they feel left out or they feel inadequate. I know lots of people, both men and women, who think that because I believe a man's supposed to be a protector, provider, presider, that somehow I think a woman's role of supporter and compassionate and loving and the primary caregiver and raiser of our children is somehow inferior to that. It's not. It's different.
Well, it's all about
but it's
context.
Not inferior.
I mean, I've had these run-ins, it seems like, on social media, which kind of brings me to my next question. But run-ins on social media or whatever, where you're talking with people who literally they're going to grab something, and through the lens through which all of their experience or something that's traumatic that's happened in their life, and they pigeonhole you and they'll read into something thinking that this is what you're trying to say. And I'm like, this is not what I'm trying to say. If you look at it and have a logical discussion about it, then you'll understand that. And then you're basing all of this on a single post without ever really knowing the actual resonance of where I'm coming from.
Or a single perspective. What they'll do is they'll take, for example, maybe their dad was out of the picture, or maybe their dad was abusive, physically, emotionally, sexually abusive. And so what they do is they say, well, see, all men are toxic. Masculinity inherently is toxic because it's used to prey on other people. No, your dad was an asshole.
Totally.
Period.
He deserves to be taken out into the woods and taken care of it.
Exactly. I mean, and you know who does that kind of stuff? Good men.
Right. The sheepdogs, man. That's right.
That's who polices that behavior. It's not women. It's not the weak. It's men.
100%.
So they take one perspective and they apply it broadly and think that it just applies because they went through a horrible situation. And look, I'm not even downplaying that. You could have went through a horrible situation, and it's unfortunate and it's tragic. And I don't wish this kind of stuff on anybody, but it's isolated. We need other people to regulate that. Men specifically.
And the interesting thing isn't like in the social media world. I mean, right. That I don't even know how you could ever fix that, to be honest with you. Like, the fact that people are taking something because information is coming so quickly and people want to feel like they have a voice. And so they just jump on it and they're viewing it through their lens. I'm guilty of it. You know, I think we all are to some degree, right? I'm going to view the world through my own experiences. So I've really had to work on becoming more objective in how I consume information. And every once in a while, it just feels good to give a jab, though. You run across someone.
Of course, because we all have egos and want to protect that stuff. And again, this is why I go back to knowing the data. You have to know the data. You have to know right. Because otherwise, yes, you are guilty of the same thing that other people are guilty of. Like, for example, if you take somebody who had an amazingly supportive, loving, guiding, caring, present father, they might just say, well, no, all men are amazing. Well, that's true. That's clearly not the case either.
Right.
So we have to look at it objectively, not just for our own world lens or perspective.
Totally. So there's a lot of guys in here that are they're building something, right? Whether it's a men's movement or whether it's a business that they have or whatever it is, something that they care about, something that inspires them. They're going to come across hate. That's just the way that it is. They're going to get some shade. How do you deal with this internally and externally whenever you come across someone? Because I know you've had to have some pushback.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How do I deal with it? I try to be objective and realize that this is probably an individual who either doesn't have the facts at hand or might just be bitter and contentious about something. Did I lose you, Corey?
Nope, I'm here. Can you hear me? You there?
Yeah. Sorry. I think can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, what I was saying, I don't know what you heard, but
I heard everything.
You did okay.
Yeah.
I had a guy on Instagram today. I was talking about an incident that we had across the street over here. We had a home catch fire, and it's a home that's notoriously known for drug activity and drug use. And we had police officers and firefight. They had 3 fire trucks over there putting this fire out. They arrested one guy, and the guy was fighting around and flailing, and the cops were trying to talk him down. And anyways, I commended first responders. I said, look, these guys came over here. Everybody knows it's a drug house. They put themselves at risk. Who knows what's in the air, because who knows what's burning down in there. They've got this other guy who's wanting to fight with them, verbally assault and physically assault these police officers, and they're trying to keep a level head. Like, I commended these police officers. And then I had one, the overwhelming majority of the people that respond are positive, right? But I had one guy, he's like, well, not all police officers and first responders are heroes. I'm like, well, I didn't say that, first of all, but he just kept going off about how they're just doing a job and they steal from the black community, like just crazy shit.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, I realized, like, this guy isn't upset with me. He's probably not even like really upset with first responders. He just sounds bitter. If I had to guess, the way that he was responding was that he either tried to get into the police and didn't make it, or he got arrested at some point or had an altercation with police officers. That put a negative taste in his mouth. Like, he's angry or he's bitter or resentful or envious or something is going on there. And I try to realize that these individuals who are, it has nothing to do or very little to do with who we are and the message that we're sharing, and more to do with the way that they're thinking about it and the way that they're dealing with their own stuff in life.
100%, man.
Corey, I think I lost you again, man.
I can see you. I don't know. Can you hear me? You there, Ryan? If you guys watching can hear me, let me know in the comments. I'm here. You there, Ryan? Hello. Let's see here. Can you guys let me know if you're still seeing this? Ryan, you there? Okay. Paul's saying we can see and hear both of y'all. Y'all hold tight. I'm going to try to get him. Let's message him. You there, Ryan? Right. I apologize, fellas. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Hold on really quick. Let's see here. Okay, Ryan is now frozen. We can see and hear both of you. Okay. Let me get him, message him real quick. And then... Okay, so he's jumping back on again. So what are you guys thinking of this interview so far? It's been really powerful. Ryan is He's a mover and a shaker, man. I love it. Let's see. Okay. He should be up any minute here. Still waiting. Okay, here we go.
Hey,
you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody said they could see and hear both of us. So I don't know what was going on.
I hope I didn't like pick my nose or anything when the screen was black and they saw me do that. I don't know.
Well, I was going to talk to you about that on that. No, I'm just playing. All right.
I don't know what I was saying before, so who knows?
We were talking about people that throw shade, but
yeah. So how do you deal with that? Certain people are miserable. I think I lost you again, but I think people can hear me. But certain people are miserable. I think it speaks less about what you're doing and more about them. You have to be convicted in what you're doing. That again, to go back to the research, if you have that level of research, then you can have more conviction around what you're thinking and saying, that you're not just speaking out of your ass, that you actually know what you're talking about. Right. And then there's just a level of confidence that comes from knowing that, I don't care what people say. They can say whatever they want. It doesn't bother me. I also have boundaries I put in place. Like one that I've implemented is a one response rule. If somebody's being an asshole, I just respond once. So I say what needs to be said, and that's it. And these people are really, really good at pushing the right buttons. So it's very tempting to want to keep responding. If they're good at something, it's that. You just don't because you've established the boundary. And there's just things like that you just deal with and overcome because that's part of the gig.
That's funny, man. So let's switch gears here because I want to talk about your book, Sovereignty. I mean, there's a million things I wanted to talk to you about. Unfortunately, we've only got so much time in the day.
Sure, yeah.
But your book, Sovereignty, man, like of all the stuff that you've kind of encompassed over the last 4 years and really in your life, there's a lot of topics there that you could have jumped on for your flagship book. Like, what made you jump on the concept of sovereignty?
That's the biggest problem men are dealing with. They give away their sovereignty to their wives, to their boss, to the government, to the president, to their clients. I mean, pick something or somebody. And what do? We blame it on everybody else. The reason I'm inadequate with my marriage is because my wife is a bitch. The reason I didn't get the promotion is because my boss is an asshole. The reason I'm not doing better financially is because the presidential policies that have been put in place. The reason I'm fat is because my parents had bad genes or they taught me bad habits.
Right.
And it's really tempting because nobody wants to look in the mirror at their fat ass and say, oh, it's my own fault.
Yeah.
I've been eating too many French fries. Like nobody wants to say that. And yet that truth is the foundation for growth. And so the unintended consequence, I believe it's unintended, is that when we make excuses for our inadequacy or our poor performance, we are simultaneously giving away control over our lives, right? Because if my wife is a bitch and that's the reason my marriage is failing, I got to wait for her not to be a bitch. If my boss is an asshole and that's the reason I didn't get the promotion, there's nothing I can do to get the promotion. I got to wait for him to stop being an asshole.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's a very passive way of living. It's a pathetic way of living, quite frankly.
It is.
It's never going to produce the result because you're constantly waiting around for somebody or something or some organization to give you something or to do something or provide some value. And there's nobody on the planet, no person, individual, government, organization who cares more about you than you should be caring about yourself. So if the government comes in and rescues you with some sort of social program, they're doing an inferior job than the way you can do it yourself.
Right.
But in order to do it, you got to take sovereignty. You've got to take ownership. You've got to reclaim that and say, it's not their fault. It's not the government's fault to provide me with health insurance. It's mine. Oh, well, what about those people who were just born unhealthy? Shitty hand, man.
Yeah.
That sucks. I don't wish that on people.
How many stories have we heard along the way of guys coming out of that and their lives have been even more? I mean, they're the kind of guys that we all want to hear the stories of.
Yeah, because it's inspiring when somebody overcomes something. And what I think a lot of people do is they live vicariously through other people. You know how many damn Tom Brady posts I've seen over the past 3 days? Like, I don't care about Tom Brady.
Right.
All right. And look, I'm not a hater of Tom Brady. I think he's an amazing football player. It would be hard to argue that he is not the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't care if you like him or don't like him or what, think he cheats or does. It would be hard for any rational person to say that Tom Brady is not the greatest quarterback of all time. And yet I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because Tom Brady don't pay my bills.
Yeah.
And you know how many men are living vicariously through what another human being is doing? You know, I see this guy on Instagram. I follow him on Instagram, and his tag is like Patriots fan. And all he does is post about the Patriots and how we did this and we did that. Holy shit, dude. Like, get a life. Yeah. Look, I watch the football game. I don't mind when somebody watches football. I think that's great. I think you can be inspired by Brady or an MMA guy or anybody. I think there's great value in being inspired by people. But there's a point where it crosses the line from inspiration to trying to live vicariously through what somebody else is doing. Yeah. We didn't win the Super Bowl. The Patriots won the Super Bowl. You happen to be watching it. Call it for what it is. This is none of this we stuff. And man, I'm just telling you, like, the reason that I wrote that book is because I'm tired of people seeing or giving away power over their own lives and the authority and ability to do something about the situation they found themselves in to other people, other institutions, governments, and other organizations, hoping that somebody else will take care of them. It's pathetic. It's sad.
You should almost make that book as part of the curriculum in all the high schools, man.
Yeah, I don't even think almost. I think absolutely they should.
Yeah.
I mean, we
need to work on that. That'd be good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think there's bigger fish to fry, but that would be cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it would be cool, man. We'll see. So whenever we talk about sovereignty and all that, that also has to do with kind of going back to that whole provisional side of things inside of our lives. So kind of, I'm with you, by the way. I don't really ever watch sports. I don't watch TV. We have a TV in my house, but it's connected to the DVD player, and that's it. Sorry, I got a call. But being able to make money for a family, and a lot of guys struggle with that whole premise. Like, what for you inside of building up Order of Men and all that? Would you say like were the most important concepts of building up a brand that had the ability to make money? And I know that's not the purpose of what you do, but it has to be a purpose because it has to be worth your time.
Yeah. Well, I think number one is you kind of already answered it, but it's the mental, it's getting your head right around being able to make money and create something that's meaningful, significant, and relevant to people. Okay. I think there's a lot of time, and I have people who say, oh, I can't, like literally will say, I can't believe you make money doing this. You should just be doing it out of the goodness of your heart. It's like, well, two things can exist. Like I can be doing it out of the goodness of my heart, and I could also want to make money doing it. I mean, when's the last time you went into work for free and said, oh, boss, don't worry about that paycheck. I'm not interested in that. I'm just doing it out of the goodness of my heart. It's a stupid idea. It's ridiculous that people believe that, and they do. So the first thing is you got to reconcile the fact that you can do it out of the goodness of your heart, that you can do something that's good for people and that helps people or solves a problem that they're dealing with, and also you can make money doing it.
Yeah.
Once you get
there's a lot of people that have that
Yeah.
mental block, man. I have conversations with guys a lot, and it's like the way that they view sales or making money off of something, you know, it's like, and they're usually not rolling in money if they have any, but then they will have like scenarios where they're like literally arguing with themselves about, hey, I need to go make money, but at the same time, I don't want to rip somebody off, so I'm going to, you know, that's what they kind of tell themselves. Yeah. They don't realize those are kind of their own worst enemy.
Well, in a big way.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're isolating the transaction from the money that goes along with it, and they're inseparable. Exchange of it's a metric of perceived value. Right. So when you're asking somebody for money, whether it's to listen to this or to join a course or to buy a widget or whatever, you're not taking from somebody. You're actually exchanging.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Well, and you went through our Tribe Builder course. So let's use that for example. So we put together a Tribe Builder course, 4-week course. We use Facebook. There's some challenges, assignments, calls like this, that sort of thing. And we charged $497 for it, which you paid for.
Yeah.
And in exchange, I gave you the course and access to it and the assignments and everything else that goes along with it. In order for that voluntary transaction to take place, two things have to exist. You have to believe that the Tribe Builder course is worth more than $497.
Yeah.
Because if you thought it was less than or worth less than $497, you wouldn't have paid $497 for the course.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, that's good. So variable number one is that you have to believe that it's that the thing that you're getting is worth more than what you're paying. That's variable one.
100%.
This second component of this is that I have to believe that your $497 that you're giving to me is worth more than what I'm giving to you, the Tribe Builder course.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't believe that, I would charge more or I wouldn't even offer it. Right? So that's the power of free markets, is that I get to decide what I value. You get to decide what you value. And because each individually we're deciding what's valuable, together through voluntary exchange, we decide to conduct business, to transact.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is so hard for people. I really don't. It's hard for me to understand why it's so hard for other people to wrap their heads around. But it's okay to ask for money. It's good. It's just an exchange of value. That's all it is. Yeah. So that's number one.
No, I think that'll be super helpful for a lot of the guys listening. Number one, what you got something else?
Well, I think you said two or three things, didn't you?
Yeah.
Maybe you did. Maybe I made that up. I think the next thing that you have to realize is you have to have a very clear set of expectations about what this is going to take. I think the people that fail in life, whether it's starting a new business or getting into a relationship or a marriage or going to work for a new company or trying to get their fitness back on track, is they have a skewed, distorted, or warped perspective about what it's going to take to actually achieve success. Like if you went into the gym, for example, and you haven't been there for 10 years and you think that you're going to get a 6-pack abs in 1 week, you're going to quit on day 7 because you don't have a 6-pack abs. But that wasn't because the programming wasn't working. It's because your view of the way exercise and diet and nutrition works is warped. It's a faulty premise. It's the same thing with business. If you think you're going to get into business, for example, with Order of Man, it took me about 7 to 8 months to make my very first dollar. The first month that we actually started making money, I made $1,000, and I didn't make money again until 2 or 3 months later. If I would have got into this thinking that I was going to make 6 figures in the first year, I would have quit on day 366 because I didn't achieve making 6 figures on 365 days. So you got to have a very clear, accurate idea of the expectations and what it's actually going to take to achieve success. How do you do that? You talk with somebody who's been through it before.
Yeah.
Because they know. You don't know. You don't have any idea. You've got to talk with. This is why coaching is so important. This is why courses like you took are so important, because you're talking with somebody who's further down the line and whatever that may be, and they have gone through it. So they know what to expect, so they can set you up for success, not set you up for failure. Right. That's why it's worth paying for coaches. A lot of people won't pay for coaching. Well, why would I pay for that? I just figured it out on my own. You might be able to, but one of the biggest hurdles you have to overcome is knowing what you're getting yourself into. And most people don't, because they've never been in that situation. It's understandable. Yeah. And then the third component. So we've got the mental barrier of asking for money. We've got number 2 is clear expectations of what's going to take, accurate expectations. And then number 3 is just the level of consistency that it takes. Yeah. This is work. This is a job. Yeah. A lot of people look at what I do, and I've quite literally had people say, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could just dink around on Facebook all day? I'm like, dude, if that's what you think, if that's what you think I'm doing, why don't you go start your own thing and tell me how that works out for you? Because the last thing I would describe this as is dinking around on Facebook. In fact, there's days, this morning I was editing a podcast where I was like, this sucks. This sucks. Yeah. I don't want to do this. Right.
So you edit your own stuff?
Well, one show, but I'm actually next month, all of that will be outsourced because we're in the position to do that now. Yeah. But man, when I started, I was doing it all, man. I was editing. I was booking guests. I was sending out emails. I was dealing with complaints. I was the customer service department for merchandise in our warehouse. Like I was everything.
Yeah.
Because that's what it requires. It's a job.
A lot of work.
Work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So you've got to be consistent day in and day out, show up regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether or not you want to do it or don't want to do it. You've got to maintain consistency. And I talk with you, for example, in the Tribe Builder course of posting 3 times a day, right?
Yeah.
3 times a day, man, that you've got to post. You've got to be active. You've got to figure out what to talk about. You've got to engage people 3 times a day, in addition to everything else that you have to do. It's a level of consistency that's helped me achieve the type of success that we've had. Because I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not well-versed enough. I don't communicate well enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not connected enough to be able to not be disciplined about this stuff.
Right.
Like
that's a bigger deal, right? The discipline aspect.
For sure.
I mean, you just got to force yourself to freaking do it.
Right. I mean, I'm so average in so many ways that the only way for me to achieve success in this business or at the gym or in my marriage or being a father, the only way is for me to maintain discipline and so ordinary and average in everything else, except for maybe like the beard growing department. It takes no discipline for me to grow a beard. It just grows. But outside of that, there's consistent action day in, day out, relentless, never stop, because I'm not talented enough in any other capacity to achieve the type of success that I have.
And making mistakes, being okay with that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're not willing to make a mistake, you're not going to do anything. So you got to be willing to look foolish. And trust me, I've looked foolish plenty of times.
That's what I really wanted to hit on, because I know a lot of guys, they get hung up on that. I used to too. That used to be one of the biggest things that kept me. It was like, man, well, I think we've kind of created this society where it's like, if you make mistakes, you're an idiot. Well, it's an experiment. You got to figure it out somehow. And if nobody's going to like take you by the hand and show you step by step, and even then, I don't think that would be that would eliminate mistakes, right? Because it's not going to work the same for you as it would for them necessarily.
Well, and you said something funny. You said, if you make a mistake, you're an idiot. Well, yeah, that's true. You are. But what's wrong with being an idiot? Like, you don't know.
Yeah. We got to reframe how we see things. I guess that's the biggest thing. I'm with you 100%.
Right, man. When I went into jiu-jitsu for the first time and I had a guy that was 40 to 50 pounds lighter than me choke me out, I looked like an idiot. I was an idiot because I thought that I could actually do something in that circumstance. And so, yeah, I was an idiot. But that's not bad, because I'm willing to be that. I'm willing to look foolish so that I don't – it shouldn't be a perpetual state of idiocy, right? Like, you shouldn't always be an idiot. That should be a temporary station in life. But unless you're willing to look that way, you're never going to overcome that. And then you're just going to be an idiot without even knowing about it. So not only are you an idiot, maybe you're just ignorant as well. So I'd rather be an idiot by design, knowing that I can get better, than just be completely ignorant and oblivious to the fact that I'm a fool.
Well, and then looking at who's actually the people calling you that, if anybody is. A lot of times it's just us thinking people are, but
the people that matter don't.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
take it for what it's worth, man. I mean, like, the people are going to call you out on that crap. Or
do you think that guy who choked me out the first time I went to jiu-jitsu called me an idiot? No, because he 3 months earlier, that was him.
Yeah.
And he knows what it's like. And that guy's opinion has some weight, because he's where I want to be. Not ultimately, but he's further down the track than I want to be. So his opinion and his thought process and his ideas and his perspective counts to me. It holds some weight with me. The guy who's never stepped foot into a jiu-jitsu gym or ever done any sort of wrestling or martial art, his opinion of me holds no relevancy. He's not where I want to be.
Yeah.
He can be a great human. He can have a lot of worth, and we're not doing the same thing, and he's not where I want to be. So no weight on that opinion. We always got to qualify our sources of information, of criticism and feedback that we're receiving.
100%, man. Ryan, we are down to the wire, and I know you got to jump on another call, so I want to be respectful of your time. But I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to be on here, dude. I was really looking forward to this interview too, man. I respect you a lot, and ultimately, I hope we can do some work together, man. I know
For sure,
in the same space, I have no intention of slowing down, and dude, anything that we can do together to make this a movement together, you know, man. You just let me know, and I'll keep you posted as well. Let the men know where they can find you.
Order of Man, wherever you are. If you're listening to a podcast or you're on social media, actually on social media, like Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Ryan Michler. My last name is spelled Michler. On Facebook, Order of Man, orderofman.com, or Order of Man is the podcast. You can find me there.
Awesome. Well, man, I highly recommend that you go and follow what Ryan's doing with Order of Man and all those different social profiles that he just gave you. Make sure that you follow him, that you stay tuned to what he's doing. He's always up to some big things, and he's doing some really cool stuff. And you know, I believe in you, men, and I thank you for your time and being here too. And that's why I'm working hard to provide this content to you with people like Ryan. Who are out there doing it, you know, and this is really what I really want to get across to you. Most of you are already doing that, but you just need a little push over the edge, or sometimes you just need a little motivation. This is the place to get it. Tell your friends about what we're doing here. Invite them to be a part of this as well. And if you guys like what you saw, comment in the section below, letting Ryan know, you know, how much you appreciate it as well. And Ryan, thank you so much, man. Have a great day. And you guys have a great day. Go kill it.
Appreciate it, man.